Hello and welcome to our Filmakademie Projects program. Animationsinstitut is part of the Filmakademie Baden-Württemberg, a film school with 550 students in total, with 100 students in the field of animation, visual effects, technical directing, and animation and effects producing. The school has been established 30 years ago, and regular studies take 4.5 years and are tuition-free. During this time, the students learn their craft work by learning by doing, according to the principle of the school. For the next hour, we would like to show you some of our Animationsinstitut graduation projects, which are related to visual effects. The projects are currently work in progress and neither finished nor released yet, so you are the first to get a sneak peek into the making of process of our productions. So let's dive into our first project and music video in the world of 2073X called Neoshin.
Hi, this is Sebastian. I'm the director of the project and I'm also part of the band.
My name is Jiayan Chen, and I am the producer of the project.
My name is Ramon. I'm the co-director and technical director of the project.
My name is Roman. I wrote the initial script and the songs for the band Neoshin. I also produced the tracks at my home studio.
My main duty is to oversee all steps of the production from conception through to finalization, and working closely with the directors to understand and support their vision, and at the same time keep the production within the allocated budget.
My main responsibility is the creation of our characters, where I'm covering most of the pipeline, as well as a general overview of all the technical aspects. As a co-director, I collaborate with Sebastian in order to define our vision and look of the project.
All necessary rights for this. I cede to Eden.
Neoshin is a series that tells the story of Ayuka, a girl living in a dystopian future world in the year 2073X. When she attends a virtual concert of the band Neoshin, her life gets completely out of control.
To Eden.
In our story, the world is run by mega corporations. Pollution, climate change, and general overpopulation makes the real world not worth living in anymore. Part of the population escapes into virtual reality, the so-called cryonic reality, where the body of the people is frozen and they don't age in the real world while they enjoy this virtual paradise.
What makes our concept special is that the band Neoshin exists as a character in the series and in the real world as a performing band.
so we're actually gonna play live. Each new single of the band is also another episode of the story.
That will bridge the gap between music videos and narrative film.
To create the band scenes in the video, we decided to utilize this LED cave to bring the real band performance onto our virtual nightclub and create as much VFX as possible in camera. For this, we have teamed up with LED Cave by Let It Go in Mannheim. Our nightclub scene is rendered in real time via Unreal Engine onto these LED screens, giving us all the light interactions for free. The biggest benefit of using an LED screen instead of a regular green screen is that all the actors, the director, the camera guy, everybody can see the real location on set. So it's really easy to do very quick decisions and do little light changes because we're not so dependent on the post-production.
User. I am Ayuko.
Our protagonist, Ayuko, is a fully digital human. To realize this, we first went into a photogrammetry stage where we scanned an actress and also, in addition to the body, scanned a wide variety of face shapes which were based on the FX system.
I am. I am. I am. If we knew what was I am.
We also took a lot of reference material to make sure that we had the possibility to match the digital character to the real reference. All those scanned shapes and models are then cleaned up and reconstructed. The captured face shapes were split into individual action units and then assembled into the rig to provide us with a full range of motion for the animators. We are using an OptiTrack system in combination with the GoPro for the face capture to capture all those data, and then later on use Dynamics YZ to solve the facial performance onto our rig. This provided our animators a good base to work on.
2073X. You.
As a base for animation, we did 2 performance capture sessions. The first session we used to define our general animatic and cinematography using virtual cameras, and then the second performance capture session we used to capture the acting, where we also included face capture.
Relax and just let me tear your brains out. Wow, that is so amazing. You should put that on social media. They're gonna love this shit, I swear.
Hi, my name is Berg and I'm the animation supervisor of Neoshin. I'm also the mocap actress of the main character, Ayuko. My task is to supervise the editing of the captured data. I'm in constant contact with all the animators to give them feedback and advice. A big part of this is to analyze the responding feedback and further tweak the rigs together with Ramon. Further tasks are to coordinate the animators and never lose track of the 100+ CG shots. Since most of our animators work remotely, we use SimSketch for feedback.
The first episode, Coldblood, takes place in a variety of different settings, which were all realized using full CG. For this, we crafted a wide range of vehicles, buildings, holograms, in order to bring our vision to life. For the actual creation of the scene, Unreal Engine is used for layout, previs, as well as the backdrop for the LED wall shoot. Our final layout is created in Houdini using a custom-made Unreal Engine plugin, which transfers the data from Unreal Engine to Houdini and instantiates high-res models. Those are then rendered in Arnold.
The goal of the music is to bring the vision of a dystopian Neo-Tokyo future cosmos into balance with our musical preferences in terms of style and modern sound design. The initial situation for this purpose was not the best, since we had no singer for the project. So in this case, it was essential to give the music a voice that does not exist in the real world. Therefore, I decided to work with sampling, for example, snippets of text-to-speech audio programs, the Vocaloid software, which is quite a big deal in Japan right now for many years, and especially vocoder sounds.
Would you ever say that we did anything different if we knew what was going to happen?
If we knew what was going to happen, would you ever say that we did anything different?
Persist, exist, insist, persist, the mist and bliss, dismissed and missed.
But what has turned out to be a rather annoying challenge before should turn out to be quite profitable for the overall project, because the sound of a vocoded voice resembles an impression of what we might call something digital.
Something digital.
This makes it blend very well with our visual idea of the band as a digital virus, and puts it in a pretty hard contrast with the lyrics, which appear quite personal and vulnerable, and therefore human. On the other side, we needed to combine the Neosynth track with the brute modern sound in a way that we could play it live at the same time. Wenn ich jetzt noch ein Amp drauflege, wenn ich jetzt noch irgendwas Cooles dazu spiele, so the second focus was to combine EDM-like sounds with low-tuned, distorted, heavy guitars.
Would you ever say that we did anything different if we knew what was going to happen?
Ever say, ever say, ever say, ever say, ever say, ever.
The band is wearing custom-designed face masks that took about 1.5 years to develop.
Ever say.
All the motion graphics of the band are triggered through Touch Designer, which gets a signal from Unreal Engine to keep all this stuff in sync.
To further play with the idea of different realities, we also launched Ayuko as a digital influencer in the real world.
She can be found on social media, where she's posting about her everyday life in the year 2073X.
Ever say, ever
We started creating Neoshin as part of our diploma thesis at the Filmakademie Baden-Württemberg, and we will continue on with it afterwards.
Wow, that is so impressive. I guess I have to mention this again. This is the students' project. Don't you think it looks quite professional? If you would like to hear more about that project, then join tomorrow's APD conference, The Power of Collaboration, at 3 p.m. Our next project is Mother Nature's Power, a collaboration between Animationsinstitut and the commercial department. The team has grown up to 20 artists. To handle such a bunch of people, you need good communication and organization skills, especially during a pandemic. The biggest challenge is to achieve the inspired photorealistic look of an iceberg, an oil rig, destructions, smoke, water simulations, and many, many more. Let's have a look at how the artists have handled their tasks.
Hi there, I'm Martin Egger. I'm the co-director and VFX supervisor, one of two, of Mother Nature's Power, our diploma project at Filmakademie Baden-Württemberg Animationsinstitut. Our film is about a young girl who's worried about climate change and who lost all hope that there's anyone really doing something to stop it. So she goes on a journey to find help from Mother Nature herself. Here's a work-in-progress teaser.
Of Mother Nature's Power. We've been in production for just over a year and are aiming to finish in a little under 4 months in July. We've been incredibly fortunate to collaborate with a total of 21 talented artists on our project. As we started, just as the pandemic hit, remote work was a key aspect of our production. Because of that, it didn't matter if our artists working next to us or on the other side of the globe. Our communication was mostly organized through Discord. Even though it was hard sometimes, we tried to keep a strong daily routine, not to get lost in our home offices.
Hey there, I'm Lukas, one of the VFX supervisors for Mother Nature's Power, responsible for pipeline and effects. One of our hero shots was the huge iceberg crashing into the oil rig. A big challenge were the assets, so we needed to make a photorealistic iceberg and a photorealistic oil rig with some sculpting in ZBrush. All our artists did an amazing job on modeling and texturing and also effects. The entire sequence is split into different artists. We need to work on the ocean, the destruction, texturing, lighting, and it's great to have so many amazing people on board to help us. I also worked on the ground interaction of the wind trees. As you can see here, it's still a proxy geometry. It's still a real wind turbine. And Boris is going to tell you more about how we created the palm tree turbine.
Hi, I'm Boris and I was responsible for creating the wind tree asset. So the idea of the wind tree was to imagine how a wind turbine would look like if it was created by Mother Nature. And we decided that the best representation of a wind turbine in nature would probably be a tree, and well, a palm tree to be more exact. So the modeling was done in Maya using a combination of mesh, deformers, procedural noises. Since almost every aspect of the model was done procedurally, I could really quickly create multiple assets with variation.
A key challenge for collaborating remotely was, of course, data. While me and Lukas still had access to our university workstations, we couldn't do that with our 20 artists. So we had to come up with a solution, and we found the software called Resilio Connect. So using this software, we're syncing data peer-to-peer between all of our artists, while the true state remains on our university network. A key aspect of our asset creation was photogrammetry. We were really fortunate to acquire amazing footage from various contexts, which we could combine into amazing scans as the basis of our assets. For more complex geometry like our coal plant, we refrain from reworking the UVs in order to retain maximum textile density from just the scan. Because of that, I designed a delighting process that was procedural based on the sun direction dot product of the normal face. This worked pretty well, but it would unfortunately leave the direct shadows, but those were either small enough or easy enough to remove later.
Hello everyone, my name is Nicolas. I'm from Colombia, Latin America, and I'm working as a lighting and dev artist for Mother Nature Power. More exactly in this, which is a coal plant shot, and my focus was to make the layout of the plant with the scans we gathered from the previous steps you heard from Martin. Basically, all what I had to do was tweak the scans a bit, optimize them, and correct some stuff. Also in early dev, I tried to model the plant, but the amount of detail of the plant we had to put inside there was just too much for the time we had. So what I did instead was using the scans, kit bashing them, and recreating some of the key parts of the scans, which were also kind of bad, like these chimneys right here, using Blender and Substance, something fairly easy. And in order for the layouts to work, I had to keep in mind that some of the back faces were empty, and also the center of attention for the shot, which was the main building collapsing.
Hi, I'm Jan. I'm working for the Mother Nature team as a 3D texturing artist. After I received a big oil rig model, I created textures and smart materials. Here are a lot of UV tiles to manage, and for that, the new UDIM workflow in Substance came quite handy for that.
As both Lukas and me are effects studies at heart, this particular department got a lot of love in our project. So I developed a custom file cache tool with a lot of fancy schnick-schnack to allow us to go through as many iterations as possible in a short amount of time and to automate most of the groundwork. Most importantly, the ability to start a background render without clogging up the foreground process of Houdini. The basis for this was built by Yura Tomori, an alumni TD of our institute. We also automated a lot of the previews, so it automatically does an OpenGL render while you do the cache, so you instantly can judge whether or not your simulation was going in a good direction. Another key aspect of our effects pipeline was wedging. For this, I upgraded our existing file cache with a ton of Python to incorporate a custom interface which would allow us to automate the process of setting wedges and going through iterations. Wedging works through a couple of different modes, from sequential to sequential each to random, where it would go through the parameters in a different way each time. Mostly, of course, it was the random variations that were used. A metric ton of data isn't any good if there's no way to visualize what you've generated. So I built an auto-generated custom UI overlay to visualize the parameters in a sensible way.
Hello everyone, my name is Nico Klein and I work on Mother Nature's Power as an effects artist, where my main responsibility is simulating the ocean. My biggest challenge so far definitely was the bow wave of the iceberg slashing through the ocean. To achieve the desired shape, I first tweaked the simulation parameters, but soon I noticed that wasn't enough. So I also implemented a guide geometry system that generates a velocity field and therefore allows me to further art direct the simulation. Of course, it's far from finished, but I think we are on a very good way.
The coal sequence with its destruction brought another level of complexity, as the photogrammetrized asset was of yet another scale. For ingesting, every one of the 7 scans had to run through a cleanup process to be ready for pre-fracturing. Also, I designated material properties based on the flatness of each particular area, so small pieces would fly off differently than large stone walls, which gave us more complexity in the simulation.
For pre-fracturing, I again developed custom tools for automation and more importantly, reliability at assets of this scale. As nice as Houdini's built-in tools are, they aren't really made for out-of-the-box use on really big assets. So I rebuilt some tools and oftentimes also achieved a necessary speed up of about 10-fold, because otherwise the built-in tools would just like take days for a single pre-fracture. As the incoming geometry from the scan was just a surface, I decided to not waste time doing proper fracturing of a volume, but just fracture the surface, and then after fracturing, extrude it in order to get volumes for the simulation. The RBD collapse simulation itself took a lot of fine balancing of the constraints and working through clusters to create the breakup that works naturally. In the earliest stages, we experimented with various techniques for guided RBD, but this ended up being too hard to control for the natural complexity of the scene. The smoke was simulated using Matthew Puchala's amazing Axiom solver. The trickiest part, as with any smoke simulation, was the sourcing, which had to make sense in order to work in the scene. Again, I had to rebuild the debris source tool in order to handle the huge scale of the scene. And then I had a secondary particle simulation to drive the smoke in a more realistic way. When the smoke drops based on the proximity to the ground, pressure is sourced into the simulation in order to cause this upward expansion, which fakes the compression under the coal plant when it falls.
Hey, my name is Levi from Hungary, and I'm responsible for the look development of our volcano at Mother Nature's Power. The task consists of two parts. One is the whole mountain, the volcano itself, and the other one is the close-up shot for the lava flow.
This is the slope. After the photogrammetry geo pulled in, I've transformed it into height fields. After many hours, I went with a pretty simple setup, only a few shaders mixed up with my predefined height field masks. The tricky part really was the moss scattering. Martin came up with the idea, why don't we take one piece of moss, make a random sized patch of it, then scatter that patch again. Here we use the displaced noise, projected back to the surface, for the sake of the balance between big patches and smaller ones for the natural look.
Hi, I'm Höller and I'm working as an FX artist on a shot where we are revealing a transformation-like effect from lava to solar panels. First of all, we started with a pulsating, cooling down fractured lava. We then tried different disintegration effects, turning the whole surface of the lava into solar panels. But then we came to a conclusion and realized we had to handle the solar panels just what they are. They are soldiers rising and fighting against climate change and air pollution.
The lava was also a challenge as it needed to work together with our edit and the brief time between the eruption and when the lava arrived at the girl. The most difficult thing to achieve was the viscosity and the rolling motion that you get with a viscous fluid at this velocity. As a solution, I modeled custom velocities along the trail that I animated the lava down, which had curved velocities in order to achieve this rolling motion. The lava character itself is then of course introduced through noise in the source, which would propagate nicely down the slope. We've yet to develop the smoke on top and there's still some tweaking to do.
One big decision we had to make was the choice of our render engine. We needed to decide between Arnold and Redshift. To make rendering and look dev much faster, we gave Redshift a shot. We just used it on smaller projects before and we were not sure if it's going to be able to handle the huge geoloads. But comparing the two, Redshift actually really impressed us. Redshift is able to render like huge geoloads and we never had an issue that a scene wouldn't render. Because of the huge speed improvement, Redshift became our main render engine and we use it for everything. We rendered everything in AOVs, so we were able to change a lot of stuff in comp. We also rendered custom AOVs like a special STL map and dirt layers and so on.
Thanks for listening and we hope you stay tuned for the final release of our film later down the line. Cheers.
Isn't that awesome? When I look at this, it's almost unbelievable what the students are able to accomplish. So much work, so much passion, and an intriguing will of learning new things. I am impressed. Let's move on from heavy visual projects to a fully animated short called St. Android, a humoristic film about death in a mixed technique of 2D and 3D. When students start creating the stories, they have no limitations content-wise from the school side. The one and only requirement is to keep the amount of work feasible. Time to check out the process of making the film St. Android.
Hi, my name is Lukas from Berg.
Hi, my name is Enzio Probst.
And we are talking about the student film St. Android and its technical challenges. The film is about an old man sitting at his wife's deathbed. When she is about to die, a priest is called for guidance. But the priest is not human, it's a robot.
At your service.
The old man losing his wife is caught in shock, despair, and at a complete loss about what to do in this situation. The robot, on the other hand, is just a machine able to imitate human speech and behavior, but it's not really a feeling being, it's just a fancy gadget. To highlight the contrast between the characters, they are created in different techniques. The old couple are traditionally animated in 2D, and the robot is a 3D character.
I was the technical director of the project. I was responsible for pipeline development, rigging, technical look development, and lighting. So in the beginning of the project, after Lukas did all the animatic shots and drew them in 2D, he made a stage plan where all the camera angles and all the character positions were laid out. We could then use this to make a quick 3D animatic, setting up all the shot files that we later on used throughout the production. Then, when we had the final rigs that I built, we could just replace those stand-in characters and start actually animating.
In layout, we used 3D stand-ins for the old couple and used them as a reference for the 2D animation. After layout, we did a full rough animation pass for the whole film. Afterwards, we created the first blocking and animation pass and used this as reference for the 2D animation. On top of that, we finished the 2D animation.
And for look development, this is an early test where we tried out different hatching patterns, where I developed some shaders to do different styles of hatching, but we then later decided to keep it more simple and have a cell shaded look where we just have one highlight and one shadow. For the background, we went for a painterly look a bit. As in 2D animated films, it is often like that backgrounds are painted and are static and also have light painted in them, and foreground characters are a bit more simple and flat shaded. So for the lines, we did different tests and considered different approaches. This one is a test with inverted normal hulls, which I will come to in a second, and this one is a style frame where Lukas painted in the fork. And an important thing to note here is that the lines in the background lose their contrast through the fork. Things we considered for line rendering were obviously Freestyle, which is the integrated line renderer in Blender. It gives very nice line styles and enables you to have pencil strokes that look actually like pencil strokes and build custom shaders for the lines. But it has breaking and flickering artifacts and movements. It is hard to control the level of detail if there's too fine geometry. Also, it renders quite slow and has no viewport feedback. And it, for our fork in the background, it needs a complicated compositing setup to have this running. I tried this out and built one which needed 4 layers to be rendered separately and then combed together, to have those background lines being occluded by the fork and the foreground lines staying intact. So another thing that I wanted to try out was basically building own compositing filters for lines, but it is hard to do nice simplifications to give it an artistic look. Also, it is hard to do overlapping edges without them melting together, and it is also a slow 2-step process like Freestyle, where you need to render layers and apply the fogging properly. Here you can see that a simple edge detection filter yields in too much detail and it looks too perfect and too CG-ish. On the lower left side, you can see the filter blurred before the line detection is done, but it makes the lines lose their shapes and also melts them together, which is not so nice. On the right side, I tried comparing neighboring pixels' directions of edges and excluding edges that were not so strong where the directions didn't match. But this does not allow for crossing lines. So next approach is the inverted normal hulls approach. It's the simplest one basically, working by just pushing out a second version of the mesh and inverting its normals and then enable backface culling for outlines. This doesn't allow really to have pencil style strokes because you cannot get coordinates across and along the lines. They are also quite precise and look too perfect and CG-ish, and they also have some artifacts for topologies, but they are very fast to render, they are directly visible in the viewport, and the fogging comes for free as they are actually geometry in 3D space. So one more thing that I was looking at was building an online renderer based on a paper that I found, but I didn't come far enough for the project to use it on it. I will later on use it as a test case, so we just went for the inverted normal hull method. Talking about lighting of the 3D elements, I built a shader for our characters that allowed us to have 3 different light channels, which is normally not possible in Blender Eevee, but I used R, G and B, so the 3 color channels to separate lights off, and then I brought back the color in the shader, so each shader defines which light channel results in which light color. Also, I built controls that allowed us to mask off how far lights and shadows can go into the geometry, and it also is a bit like you would paint it in a painting program, a layered approach, so you can say, okay, I have this base color, and the shadows are multiplied on it and the highlights are added on them, and you can define for each of those which colors they have and how strong they are, and more characteristics, how smooth they are, or if they are masked out by the rims and so. For lighting the 2D elements, I also built a point light rig, which gave controls like a simple sphere mask point light and even a rim light, which made the 2D elements looking as they are lit from behind. This was done by offsetting the alpha mask and subtracting it from the original alpha mask. And the offset is calculated per pixel towards the light source, so you can not even have directional light but also point lights. The offset is then varied randomly per pixel, which gives you soft edge lights. For volumetric lighting, we couldn't use the Eevee volumetric lights as our light channel hack with red, green and blue didn't work there. It's not possible to separate those again in the volumetric shader in Eevee yet. So I built an own solution for light cones with a self-illuminated volume. It gave us a lot of artistic control and even allowed us to control the fall-offs of the light and the angle openings. And it even allowed us to do projected textures in volume light, which was nice for the glows around the screens. So then for matching the 2D and the 3D elements, we just put the 2D image planes into 3D space and tried to match the light as good as possible. For those scenarios where we didn't come up with a good light setup, in the first iteration Lukas did overpaints, and then we tried to match those overpaints, which worked quite good. Here you can see how a scene looks from an observer camera. You can see that there's the 2D image plane in 3D space. It's positioned right in front of the robot as the character would be, and this allows us to do nice contacts between the 2D and the 3D characters, like the 2D character touching the robot or the robot touching the 2D character, or even sometimes casting shadows on each other.
One of the challenges was the frame rate. In 2D animation, you very often work on twos, meaning you use one drawing for 2 frames, while in 3D animation, you just render every frame. For the most scenes, it just looked completely fine having 2 frame rates in the same picture. But there were other scenes where the characters needed to physically interact with each other, and those created some problems. We had a few ideas how to solve that issue. One was put the 2D animation on once. It looks great, but it creates a huge amount of extra work. The other idea was to put the 3D animation on twos, but we tested it and it looked way too jittery. We had the idea to animate on twos, then offset every second frame a bit, so you have a slight change on every frame, but still save a drawing. We called this solution fake ones. Most of the scenes are done with fake ones, but we also use the other variations.
Redemption is guaranteed.
That's it from St. Android. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Take care and goodbye.
All right, so far we have seen some visual effects heavy productions and an animated short, and now we would like to present to you a digital webcomic experience, a mix of full CG visuals and live action plays. I'm eager to see how the students realize the webcomic. Here's some behind the movie information of Evening Walk.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us in this presentation of our project Evening Walk. To introduce myself, I'm Auer, the director and artist of the project.
Hello, and I'm Isabella Braun, the producer of this project.
All right, so I would say let's jump right into the presentation.
Our diploma project at Animationsinstitut is a digital webcomic experience with a length of 5 to 6 minutes. Evening Walk is a combination of text, imagery, sound and music combined with full CG visuals and live action actors plays. Our release is planned in August 2021. So this is our team. Max, our director and artist, Victoria and Patrick, our musicians, Stefan, our sound designer, and Duke, our web designer, and me, the producer. So now Max is going to guide you through our story and the process of our project. Enjoy.
Yeah, thank you, Bella. So before I start talking, I would quickly like to show you just a small snippet teaser we put together to give you like a general sense and overview of the mood and the project itself. So let's just watch through this. All right, so through the whole comic-like experience in the end, we, as the viewers, follow our main character, who goes by the name of Rami, on his journey through the streets of a modern nighttime city. And we get a sense of how he doesn't really connect with his environment and instead devoted himself to his loneliness in a way. But as we follow along his journey through the night, he gets stuck in front of the entrance of a nightclub, and we experience how the memories he makes and the connections he finds eventually turn his at first hopeless search for connection into a tiny spark of hope that things might not be as lost as he thought in the beginning, if he only finds a way to connect with himself and be open for the possibilities out there. So visually, the whole story is set in a modern present-day city with a special focus on lighting in general and silhouette lighting for the characters, which is kind of our core element in the images, as we only get to know the characters as silhouettes and their outlines, basically, and we never really see behind that facade to keep kind of the anonymity you get in modern cities and public in general, I guess, especially at night. And in addition to that, we try to use different colors for the two different worlds, which is basically the outside world, which is resembled in kind of cold colors, and the more close-up connected world, where we went for a more reddish tone to resemble that emotion. So here you can see some of the other images which will be part of the final comic or experience. So yeah, you might be wondering how we created them. So I will take you through some of the steps that we took in producing the visuals. To create them, we are using a mix of 3D and live action plates or photos of real actors. And the way that works is we extract the silhouettes basically from the real actors and put them onto 3D planes into our scenes and render them all together to create the final image. Fortunately, most of our images are still images without character movements, so we save a lot of rotoscoping on that end. And the overall technique works quite nice for those scenes we are creating, but has some things to look out for, which I will quickly explain on the next page. So as these extracted silhouettes get projected on 2D planes, basically, they don't really have any depth, so perspective becomes really important. And we really had to consider that up front of our shoot, and a special attention to get proper alignment of the feet, especially, so that we can later place them into the 3D scenes. In the end, for the most part, it turned out to be the best solution to shoot actors up front to later get proper alignment to our 3D floor and the correct reflections. And even to some degree get some perspective freedom to place the camera in the 3D scene, as you can see in the example above. So with that in mind, we spent approximately 3 days of shooting the main photography and plates with 3 actors for our 3 main characters in the story, which is a kind of very mysterious combination of 3 numbers. We can assure you that that's completely random, of course. So yeah, I guess that concludes our presentation for now. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will give back to Isabella to sum it up. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your attention. I hope you enjoyed our presentation. Feel free to contact us and have a nice day. Bye!
Well done, guys. The variety of our projects is remarkable. They are all so individual, but they all pursue a common goal, a high outstanding level of production. Our last project for this track is Woody, a wooden creature that is making her way through the smoking forest. Let's take a look.
Hello and welcome to our presentation of our diploma film Woody. I'm the producer Isabella Braun.
And I'm Justin Braun, the director. The movie is inspired by a quite personal topic, burnout, and it's about a wooden creature living in a world of flames and under constant need to transform to survive.
And now we will guide you through our pre-production process. Enjoy.
Let's jump straight into the character development process. We used the VR application Quill to block out the layout of all the sticks and used a machine learning algorithm to match them with high quality assets from the Megascan libraries. So basically we trained a network to look at the different quill strokes and find the best match of, for example, twigs or branches of the Megascan asset library. We took that as a base and added more assets manually. This setup helped us to really iterate fast on the character design, so we can try out different animals, different design approaches, and go from this quill drawing to photoreal rendering to find the look. Based on the core idea of those characters, we went to the environment design and chose quill again for the 3D concepts. It was really important for me to work together with a DOP from the live action department of the Filmakademie. So early on in the process, he joined us scouting the environments, jumping with us into VR, and just find the right landscapes for the story. We based our environment design on satellite scans, so we brought it into Unreal and scouted locations we want to refine. We used Unreal and Megascans again to block out the setting and populate the environment. We wanted to shoot this movie almost like it's a live action film, so we wanted to feel the scenes we were in and felt that doing a full mocap shoot was the right approach to bring those characters alive. Production design built some of those assets we had in 3D to match in reality, like a physical asset, so we could interact with the digital world, and we built a calibration system to match exactly the position of the digital and the physical asset. We got a great performance from our actor for the ape and could really reposition easily the puppet and camera to get the shots we really want. The puppet just for the fox had 2 tracker, which were sufficient for general movement of the head and the body. And for the actor, we had to extend the arms to match those of an ape. So we worked with a motion builder as middleman between OptiTrack and Unreal. It helped extending the arms and just retargeting the character data. We used an old film camera for the DOP as a dummy to have a realistic feeling and weight for the shoulder movements and the handheld movements. And for everything else, we had dolly and jib on set to limit ourselves to the possibilities of physical camera. We had the choice between an autofocus, locking the focus on certain part of the body of the character, or use a custom Arduino follow focus for the first camera assistant. After the shoot, we rendered out each shot for the editor with the time code, so we could select the right part of the shot to later on import into Houdini. We relied heavily on a scripted Python pipeline to export the data from Unreal, so we basically rebuilt the whole hierarchy we exported from Unreal in Houdini with Vex and Python. After the preparation in Houdini, we had the scene ready for the animators to either enhance the motion capture movement or to reanimate based on the position we captured. And the scenes ready in Houdini for further set dressing, adding speed trees and lighting and effects.
Thank you, Justin, for this beautiful presentation. I hope you all enjoyed it as well. I want to thank for your attention in the name of the whole team.
Yeah, thank you all. Stay tuned for the planned release date around end of this year, and feel free to contact us.
Thank you, and have a beautiful day and stay healthy.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
This concludes our presentation, and we hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching the track Filmakademie projects. Stay tuned and follow us on Instagram, YouTube, or Facebook to get some insight of Animationsinstitut. If you like to create such an amazing content like you just saw, then feel free to apply for our studies. We are looking forward for your applications. Hopefully we see each other in person soon. Have a nice day and take care. Bye-bye.